Welcome to Damn Good Movie Memories with your host, Brian Davis. This podcast is the cure for your long commute and super boring workday. Hey there, it's Brian Davis, and for this week's episode, we're going to talk about when we met or encountered a celebrity. Now, this could be from afar, this could actually be an interaction where you talk to the person, and when I say celebrity, it's not going to just be movies this week. It could be an entertainer that is involved in music, it could be an actor, could be an athlete, it could be someone that is simply famous for being famous. Whatever it may be, we want those stories. Mahlon specifically requested this week's episode, and since he's such a loyal guest on the show, I had to do it. So that's what we're going to do this week. Now, I believe just because I've done a few interviews already before I recorded this segment, this is probably going to be a two-part episode. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to give away all of my celebrity encounters. I'll just give you one to whet your appetite for this week. I'll give you more next week. But yeah, I think this is probably going to be a 2.5, 3 hour episode. So I'd rather split it up, maybe do an hour piece. And that's what we're going to do with part one today. All right. This was from afar, but this was kind of fun. I was in high school. Now, my high school was called Carmont High School, and that was in Belmont, California. And I grew up in I graduated in 96. So right around that time, a movie called Dangerous Minds was being made. And Dangerous Minds is based on a book written by a teacher that taught at Carmont called My Posse Don't Do Homework. What was her name? I think her name was Luann Johnson. And she basically taught the kids that came from poor income families. Back in that era, they used to busing kids from different neighborhoods. And so East Palo Alto was one of the roughest neighborhoods back then. And since there was no high school in East Palo Alto, they used to bus the kids from East Palo Alto to various schools along the San Francisco Peninsula. And so this movie is about her attempts to reach those kids and those at high risk of not graduating. And so for this book was turned into the movie, and Michelle Pfeiffer actually played the role of Luann Johnson. And so I believe it was my sophomore or junior year of high school. Michelle Pfeiffer actually came to my high school, and the buzz scattered around. Now, this is pre-cell phone, so this is all word of mouth. And so when I first heard about it, I'm like, yeah, she's really here. She's not going to come to our high school. But, in fact, she did. And I remember cutting class. Sorry, Mom and Dad. Well, actually, my mom worked at school, at my high school, so I'm sure she knew anyway. And I peeked into the classroom that she was observing, and I actually got to see her from afar, and I think she noticed us and kind of turned and did kind of a cute wave and everything, and we all had to go back to class. But yeah, it caused quite a stir. Now, though I didn't actually interact with her because there was too many kids around her, and they didn't want to have to bother her. The greatest story I remember from this incident was a kid that I knew actually got to have her sign something. And so he didn't have any paper, which to me made no sense because we were at school. I would have thought he would have had some binder paper. I guess not. And so all he had on him was a $5 bill. Okay, so he had her sign the $5 bill. Then soon realized he had no money for lunch. And so what did the idiot do instead of borrowing money or asking somebody for money? He spent the $5 with Michelle Pfeiffer's signature on it. What a moron. Anyway, also at my high school, at the time, President Bill Clinton came and visited, and of course I didn't get to meet him there, but I was in the auditorium when he was there, and it was the first time I actually had to go through some extensive Secret Service frisking, so to speak, because they wanted to make sure that the president was safe. And I do remember him holding up traffic in this tiny neighborhood for a very long time. So those were my brief celebrity encounters. Not too great, but I have better ones for next week. They're mostly musicians, and those were kind of fun. All right, so again, this is going to be a two-part episode. Let's hear what everyone else has to say in this week's episode. All right, so for this week's episode, this was specifically requested by Mahlon. So this is why we bumped this up in the queue, and I'm totally happy to do it because I think this is going to be a fun episode. I think, yeah.
I hope so. I don't know that I have necessarily like the best stories, but for other reasons, I thought, I want to get this one.
No, absolutely. And you had been, I think you had originally come up with this idea months ago, and then we were just looking for the right time to do it. Now is the right time, so I think this will be a fun episode.
Cool. Well, so we were just talking about sightings versus encounters.
Right.
So I used to live in Southern California for graduate school, and I was subscribing to a bunch of theaters down there. And so I looked up like a lot of sightings, but I don't know that those are necessarily all that interesting. I saw some cool people like around, but I do have a couple of encounters that kind of make me laugh. One of them I've already told you about, though.
The Quentin Tarantino?
The Quentin Tarantino one.
It's a great story.
So I don't know if I should go over that one again. Maybe we should just use that as an opportunity to like promote a previous episode and just say somewhere in a previous episode, as an Easter egg, there's what I think is an amusing story about Quentin Tarantino.
Do you remember what episode it was?
No, I have no idea.
We have 44 of them now.
I know. Otherwise, I would make it easier by actually saying which episode it was.
It was in a movie theater.
I think it was the episode where it was Craziest Things You've Seen in a Theater.
Oh, yes, you're right. Yes.
That might be it.
That was also a combo. That was the food episode. So
maybe. Yeah.
So what do you like to eat at a movie theater?
Yeah.
Or when you're watching a movie.
So look for that one. Yeah. You gotta go back and listen to other episodes. Should I say anything about that? No, he's just a freak in a movie theater at his own movie.
Right. Well, from what I recall, like you were telling me that he was laughing hysterically at his own movie.
At the beginning of Kill Bill Volume 2, where everyone was just kind of stone-faced trying to figure out why it wasn't as bloody and fast-paced as Volume 1. And anyway, it was super awkward, and I think it was deliberate. And,
I'm sure.
Yeah. So that just made it creepy.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You always have a story to tell.
Yeah. So except now. So look back at that one. I wanted to mention one. So my favorite directors are Peter Greenaway and David Lynch. And I did have a chance run-in with David Lynch once. Never Peter Greenaway, but David Lynch once. He was on tour giving talks about transcendental meditation, and he stopped at UC Berkeley. And I co-chair a lecture series at UC Berkeley, so I take advantage of the events that are going on. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I did go to the lecture, and I was so obsessed that I did hang around afterwards just to see. He'd really thrown me for a loop. I didn't know anything about, even though he was my favorite director at the time, I didn't know anything about transcendental meditation.
Sure.
Or that I was going to listen to a talk that was promoting transcendental meditation, and as a sideline, some comments about how it has benefited his creative output.
Right.
So one thing that really struck me in his discussion, he talked a lot about world peace and creating a unified kind of mental awareness. And I can't speak eloquently about this, but using transcendental meditation in order to bring the world closer to peace. And he spoke a lot about beauty. And what struck me was that of all directors, he strikes me as one that really aestheticizes violence in his films quite a bit. Not just depicts them, but I felt at that time frequently aestheticizes them. And so I hung around afterwards and had a chance to ask him about it. And I'm not even sure to this day if I'm completely satisfied with his answer, but I asked him, given the discrepancy between talking about meditation and mindfulness as a path towards inner beauty, outward beauty, and peace, where does that fall in like creative output that has a lot of like violence, physical, psychological, and emotional, and is sometimes seemed to me
very disturbing.
Disturbing, but in a really deliberately like artistic way. So I asked him about that discrepancy, and he said that, and I can't possibly quote him verbatim, but the point of his comment was that he took seriously violence as a reflection of the real world, and posits that deliberately in his art as opposed to other states. And as I thought about it later, and I guess now, I can see how really kind of positive outcomes come out of are characteristic of the end of a lot of his films. So you have these movies where his characters go through absolute hell. They're just a lot of times torn apart physically and emotionally, and then suddenly you have this happy ending that sometimes seems to come out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. So I really need to kind of process this a lot more. But all in all, that was an encounter that I was glad that I had.
Yeah.
I got to ask him something. Now, the reason that was also important to me is that I get really fan geeked out when I meet a celebrity, not just sight them. I do a little bit when I see them out in public, but worse when I encounter them. Mm-hmm. And even worse, if they're not all that well known for some reason. I don't know, Peaches Christ, I still to this day, I even volunteer for her, and I still go all blah, 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 when I talk to her. And John Waters, who encountered a couple of times at her shows, and even Mink Stoll, who's a sweetheart, which you wouldn't think looking from the movies, because she's so foul-mouthed in his movies.
How is John Waters? Not to gloss over that one.
Well, I don't know him well. I've just bumped into him at a bunch of things, but I have developed a really sincere devotion to his wit.
Yeah.
He is just so sharp and quick-tongued. I actually like listening to him as a person better than I like watching some of his movies. And I know I've described his movies as kind of traumatic experiences for me in the past. I did eventually develop a sense of fandom for him, absolutely, and respect for him as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
No, but that's a good point. Not to go off on a tangent, so I'm going to kind of correlate this. So it's interesting. So Joe Buck, who was a baseball announcer who is often vilified for his announcing skills, and he's too much of a homer, and he's just kind of obnoxious and everything. I really enjoy listening to interviews when he's being interviewed about his craft.
Oh, sure.
And his dad was a famous broadcaster and everything. So that's fascinating, but I can't say I'm listening to him work. So the difference is you obviously enjoy John Waters, but it's interesting that you almost enjoy listening to him more than sometimes his films, and I almost get the same.
Yeah, maybe. It's kind of the unfiltered thinking behind the art, and sometimes the art I feel is uneven, but I have been since persuaded by listening to the man and getting a better understanding of where he's coming from, and I could listen to him nonstop. He's just wicked.
That's cool.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think Lindley kind of feels the same way about Mark Maron. She enjoys his podcast, but not necessarily his stand-up. Oh, and that's his main profession. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah. So cool. What other encounters?
Oh, yeah. And so the point of that was, I go totally blah, blah, blah when I'm talking to celebrities, but I realized, fortunately, before I met David Lynch and before I met Tony Kushner, that the way for me at least, to approach them wasn't to talk about their movies or anything, but to have some related interest that I want to ask them about.
Right.
So for David Lynch, it was about the aesthetics of a certain type of thing. And he gave me an interesting, although challenging, answer. With Tony Kushner, I met him twice, and the first time I asked him about gay marriage, I did a devil's advocate question for him about gay marriage, because Prop 22 was in the ballots. And that turned into a pretty long discussion. So I think that's where I learned that this was kind of the way to do it, rather than going up and being like, "Oh, I love your work," and then realizing I have nothing else to say. So I've done my research a little bit. And the second time was about Mike Daisey, who was this guy who did a play about Steve Jobs that became controversial because he posited some things that weren't factual based, but he posited them in a theatrical setting as fact, and he got called out. And so I asked Tony Kushner about that, and that was fun.
Yeah.
Because
often some people don't want to talk about themselves; they'd rather talk about certain musicians would rather talk about other bands and their own.
Yeah, and then I found I would run out really quickly. I would run out of things to ask, or I never really had anything to ask in the first place. And then you run the risk of, heaven forbid, asking an actor the infamous last case or worst case scenario question.
Yeah.
Which is, how do you remember all those words? Which no actor wants to hear. No. But you don't want to have something like that to say.
Yeah.
So
some cliche question.
Yeah. So I found do my research. Okay. So I do have a couple other stories that are a little bit, I hope, more interesting. So Elvira.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Elvira is Cassandra Peterson in real life, and I had the really great opportunity to work as an extra in a film that she was one of the leads in. The movie's called All About Evil. It was written and directed by Peaches Christ, who is Joshua Cornell, and Mink Stoll was in it, and a lot of cult performers. Natasha Lyonne was the lead in it, and I got to spend a week or so on set. And anyway, I was going to be a bunch of different things in a bunch of different scenes. One of the things that I was going to be was a mass murder victim, which was great, at a movie theater. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah. So poisoned by Kool-Aid.
Oh, nice.
So it gets better. Yeah. And so I was sitting right behind her, and she was playing the mother to Thomas Dekker, who's this... He doesn't have a big name for himself, but he was in the Elm Street remake and some other things. And anyway, so I had done my dissertation on Las Vegas, architectural history, and I found out that she was from Las Vegas. And so I asked her about her past and her remembrances of Las Vegas in between scenes. And
because she was the showgirl, I think, with Tom Jones and things like that.
Yeah. And so my dissertation was about, literally about this life in Las Vegas on the other side of the tracks during the 50s and 60s. So I was just curious what her experience was, and I had lived in Las Vegas to do my research, and I was like comparing notes and just it's a lot of long silences in between takes, and we got really, really chatty. And so this is what I didn't anticipate. So she gets called off to do another scene, and we're still kind of chatting at the end of it, and she's walking away, still talking to me. And she walks, and she's walking, still talking to me from a distance. Just total sweetheart. And that kind of ended. And then the next day, we come in to shoot a continuation of that scene. So we're all kind of in the same place. And we get a scolding. It's horrible. The extras as a pool got a scolding from the, not the stage manager, but I guess the second assistant director. From the assistant director. So apparently we're not supposed to talk to the leads because it distracts them from their work. And so I got verbally bitch slapped for getting chatty with Elvira.
So do you think she put them up to that, or it was just like they just wanted? No,
I don't think so, because she started getting chatty with me again, like the next day, and I was like, girl, you're gonna get us in trouble.
So it's probably a small budget film. They didn't want to waste time.
They didn't want to waste any time.
But at least you got the doctor. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and she's the humor that she has is Elvira.
Yeah,
like you might think, or at least I used to take for granted that it was like scripted, maybe by someone else, but she has that same kind of humor, like outside of Elvira drag. She's just really kind of cheesy and sweet and really, really funny. But yeah, so that was cool.
Yeah, that's a great
love Elvira, and I am proud to say that I did not do what most people apparently do to her, which is go to her and say, "You were my first sexual fantasy."
Oh, God.
And of course, that was never going to happen.
Right.
With me, but it's like, so that was.
But no, I mean, during the mid '80s, up until for a while, I mean, she was the go-to vamp of Halloween and campy horror and all that. I
think she is
popular.
A vampire. Yeah. She looks almost the same. The first time I met her. Wow, she doesn't look that different at all.
That's cool.
That part's kind of creepy.
Bad magic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so another one. Maybe this will be the last one I mention. So when I was living in Los Angeles, I mentioned that I used to subscribe to a bunch of theaters. One of them was the Amundsen Theater. The other, there was the Mark Taper Forum. There was the LA Opera, the LA Symphony. I don't remember if it was the Taper Forum or the Amundsen for a season they were doing. I think it was the Taper. They were redoing their air conditioning.
Okay.
And so they moved their season to some other theaters. And there was this one theater downtown, and I went to a production. I don't even remember the name of the production. I just remember it was a really depressing drama about a guy who was, I think, visiting his mother, who was living in a really fancy apartment in Paris, and it was a really drab and dark apartment, and anyway, depressing show from what I remember, which is very, very little, except for the architecture. French apartment.
Of course.
Huge, tall ceilings, big, huge French doors and glass. Beautiful set. Anyway, so there was as there will be after many of these shows, there was a conversation with some of the artists after, so you'd have this discussion. I was interested enough in the show, even though I don't remember it that well, to stay afterwards. Now, this is what I do remember. So when these discussions happen, they wait until the audience who don't want to stick around leave. That's the people who either didn't like the show, didn't understand the show, or just got to get somewhere.
Right.
So they filter out, and then the rest of the audience just concentrates around center orchestra. Some people not too close, usually in the center, and then they put some chairs up on the stage, and they have their chat. So I don't really remember all that much about the talk because I don't remember the play. But what I do remember is that George Takei and a gentleman who was accompanying him sat next to me.
Okay.
And
was his husband Brad?
Well, I didn't know who it was at the time, but we're getting there.
Okay.
So
no spoiler. Yeah.
Well,
okay, yeah.
I may as well just leave story. So I'm sitting there, and I notice that George Takei is sitting 2 people away from me, and the person that he came with is sitting next to me.
Okay.
I'm not really thinking anything of it. And we listen to the discussion. It ends. I go out to my car. I'm looking around at the stuff that I brought out. I had this little bag, and I'm looking at my binoculars that I used to take to the theater were gone. Even though I was always sitting in the orchestra, I didn't need them. They were missing. And so I ran back into the theater and I looked, and they're not there. And nobody had turned them into lost and found. So I was a little bit upset. Not terribly.
But who would steal binoculars?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Who? Who? This is where I'm getting.
Yeah.
Who would steal binoculars?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a lie to this story that I like to tell, but it's... I'm honest about the lie. And it may be the truth. So I get home, I drive back to Santa Barbara, and my husband is there and some friends, and I go in, and I'm still a little bit like, I'm going to have to go get binoculars before the next show. So I walk in, and they ask how the show is, and I was like, it was fine, but George Takei's boyfriend stole my opera glasses.
So if you ever run into Brad, you're going to have to ask him...
That's right, I'm going to have to ask him for my fucking opera glasses back. Now, here's the other thing.
Yeah.
This is before George Takei was out.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And so no one who was talking to, they were all gamer geeks and total Star Trek fans, because those are the circles I'm in. But I'm not like a terrible Star Trek fan. I watched it as a kid. But I wasn't thinking I was, outing him.
Right.
But I totally outed him to all of my friends. They were like, "No, he's not gay." I was like, "Isn't he?" He totally seemed like...
Because it's relatively recent. I mean, it's probably, if you were in the scene, you might have known. But he really didn't come out until it was maybe 10 years ago with Howard Stern. Like, he became like a new resurgence when he started appearing on Howard Stern. So.
And this was in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
This was between 2001 and 2004 that this would have happened.
Right.
Because that was like early grad school for me.
Because Howard Stern used to... There was this infamous crank call where this guy was acting like Ricardo Montalban, and and George is like, "Ricardo, how are you?" And then they start going back and forth. He's like, "I don't think this is Ricardo Montalban." And then he hangs up, and then it just became... They kept playing it over and over again, and finally called into Howard, and Howard loved him because George is great. And and then Howard would ask him typical Howard questions, and more and more came out. And I don't know if he came out on the Howard Stern show, but everyone loved George. So, and at that point, nobody cared if he was, gay or not. And so, where he was forever known as, Sulu, he's now had this whole second career, later in his life, which is pretty cool. So.
Isn't that great? I told you it's great.
Jeez.
Yeah.
How could that not be great?
That's Kid Chris. He does one to George Takei from
Star Trek.
Oh my God, so funny.
Yeah.
So you want to hear it, don't you?
Of course I do. That was great.
Yeah. Okay. So what am I supposed to do? I heard him. I went, Jesus. He played him on other shows, but what can I do?
What are you gonna do? Well, we've acknowledged this is something you might have heard.
All right, here he is as Ricardo Montalban calling George Takei.
Oh, okay.
He pretends to be Ricardo Montalban from Fantasy Island and also from
Wrath of
Khan.
Hello.
Hi, George. This is Ricardo Montalban.
Ricardo.
Yes.
How are you?
Well, how are you?
Just great.
I was just calling to say hello.
Well, it's always delightful to hear from you.
Aha. So, what are you doing this evening?
Well, believe it or not, tomorrow I'm taking off on a Star Trek cruise. We have Star Trek conventions that now float.
Aha. Are you going to come out to Fantasy Island?
Well, we're sailing from San Pedro, and we're going through the Panama Canal.
Aha.
Yes. What are you up to?
I'm just driving around with talking on my new phone.
Oh, well, good for you.
Yes, I was thinking about trying to buy some hookers.
Oh, my.
Is that your doggy?
That's my dog.
What's your dog's name?
She's a papillon. Her name is Ren.
Ren?
Speak French?
Very little.
Well, Ren means queen.
Aha, I know Ren and Stimpy.
Oh, no, not that Ren. R-E-I-N-E.
I see.
Ren.
Aha.
La Reine, her full name is La Reine Blanche.
Aha, that's a
La
pretty.
Reina Blanca.
That's a pretty name.
Thank you.
Have you have you been watching E when they had the story about tattoo?
No.
Oh, that's why I'm calling. I was wondering if you ever seen a midget naked.
You know, I don't think you're Ricardo Montalban.
That's unbelievable.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, good for you.
Oh, my.
Ricardo Montalban.
Ricardo.
La Reine.
I love George Takei, man. I love when he talks, man.
Yeah, and all of that kind of, I think, my awareness, I had absolutely no awareness of his online presence at that time. I don't even know if...
I don't think Twitter was even around yet.
Maybe not. So maybe that all developed later. It wasn't like, I was like, oh my god, George Takei.
Yeah.
I was just like, George Takei. I just got peeved when I left my
Right.
classes. But that's totally my fault. But I really did enjoy, after the fact, even in my own little joking way, blaming this guy who's completely probably had no responsibility in it, and then outing a Star Trek character.
But if you ever do happen to meet him, you have an opening line. So
That's right.
Where are my
I outed you
binoculars?
before you even realized
and where are my
it.
binoculars? So yeah.
And exactly.
Yeah.
Let me get those back.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually, so I wasn't going to mention these, but there are a couple others. So this begins my own little, like, informal trend of actors doing bad things to me, rather than like encounters or sightings. I do have a few instances of actors behaving badly and me taking, just for the fun of it, taking a grievance towards it. So Angela Lansbury cut me off in the will call line at Driving Miss Daisy.
Really?
Yeah, she did. Yeah. So I can never let her down.
Did she know she did, or was she just kind of oblivious?
I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care. No, so like I said...
Jessica Fletcher was on a case. How could you not...
Well, and she was the original Mrs.
That's
so
right.
I absolutely love her.
Okay.
But, and she did it at Waiting for Godot with Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen. So I was kind of...
awestruck,
yeah, I was really, really awestruck. I like to tell these stories like I'm bitter about it, but really I'm honored.
It's pretty awesome.
She could kick me to the curb just to get my spot in will call. I wouldn't care. I'd be like, go for it. Like, and then the other one. Now this one I was upset by. Michael Kors went to a Charles Busch play, and he was there with like a gaggle of, I guess, like, I don't know, fashionistas or something in New York City. It was in Soho at a small theater. I mean, for a Charles Busch drag play, it wasn't a big thing.
Okay.
And he was wearing jeans and a T-shirt, and he was the Great Pumpkin. He was orange, as all get out, and he was just chewing gum really, really loud. And I have this weird hearing condition called misophonia, where those types of like static, like chewing gums or like people chewing just drives me absolutely insane.
Okay, like it hits a nerve more than...
It hits a really deep nerve, deep nerve. And he's chewing gum at the theater. Oh my God, I wish I had a bottle. It was like that type of like rage. Yeah, so yeah.
So Michael Kors, you'll never buy any of his products.
No, absolutely not.
Okay,
No, if he can't be bothered to like dress up for the theater
Why
and maybe behave well.
That's right. I agree.
Yeah.
Any others? Not necessarily encounters, but sightings. So let's run through a quick list of people you've seen from afar?
Well, like performing in plays, lots of different people.
Okay.
Lots and lots of.
Well, like on the
people.
street, like just.
But on the street, Natasha Lyonne. Oh, there's a funny story about Natasha Lyonne.
Can you do it quickly?
No, I don't know if I can.
Okay.
Okay, so I mentioned that I was an extra in that movie.
Yeah.
And she was. For the movie promotion, they were producing all of these really cool headshot posters of all of the main actors. And I was going around getting them all signed.
Right.
And I had managed to get all of them signed except for 2. Natasha Lyonne was one. I went to New York and was doing a theater safari, seeing a lot of shows. She was in this night production. And I went to the box office and I asked if it would be possible to get her to sign the poster. Totally legit request. They told me to go around to the back box off the stage door, which was in this really dark street in the middle of Manhattan, kind of off from Times Square. I was creeped out waiting there, and they basically told me what her living pattern was. It's totally creepy.
They shouldn't be doing that either.
No. Anyway, as predicted, she starts coming from the subway at whatever time they said that she thought they thought that she would show up.
Right.
And she did. So I'm standing there. I get awestruck as she's coming, and I realize I don't know how to approach a performer who's got, like, their night's performance on the mind. They probably don't want to get mugged. It's a woman walking alone in Manhattan who's well-known and probably sensitive to this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, I totally blew it. It's so embarrassing. I totally scared her. I don't remember what I said, but I really came off as a panhandler and not a fan. And she got into that stage door so quickly. Yeah. Now, where it gets funnier, and I don't know if I told you this part, was that I did, after she escaped from me, I did meet another fan who came by a little bit later, also sent by the box office to terrorize a performer. And so she and I got talking. It's like 30 degrees outside. It was winter. And we're freezing, and we're talking and comparing notes, and she wanted to meet Ethan Hawke and Natasha Lyonne, and I had this poster, and she was going to be there for another week, and she was going to go back during a matinee to do it right.
Right.
And she offered to take my poster back with her. So I thought that was sweet.
That was really nice.
I gave it to her because I could get another poster.
Sure.
So I gave her the poster. She did go back the next day, or actually the next Sunday. Went to a matinee. She got Natasha Lyonne aside. What she didn't expect, what none of us could have expected, was a lot of the other performers from All About Evil had selected that performance to go and see her in that play.
Yes.
So I got a photo from this woman who got my poster signed in New York, took it home with her to Japan, sent me the picture of my poster with Natasha Lyonne and the performers from All About Evil, and then sent me the poster back from Japan. And then now I have that framed on my wall.
Now that's awesome. So if you hadn't scared her in the first place, none of this would ever happen.
That's right.
You would just had a normal signature, and that was it.
My poster is better traveled than I, because I've never been to Japan. Yeah. So
but you always have a story to tell. So, and you told it right here, and I appreciate it as always.
Yeah. Oh, so you were mentioning sighting. So Jamie Lee Curtis.
You saw her from afar.
Yeah. That was cool. That was at a Tony Kushner play in Los Angeles, and I just kind of tried not to stare at her during the intermission. But I totally just probably.
Well, of course. Who wouldn't?
Oh yeah. And that was not. Christopher Guest was not there with her.
Oh.
Yeah, she was out swimming it in the theater in Los Angeles without her husband.
All right, I just found out that Enrica just had a celebrity sighting, but we won't go into that first.
That'll be later.
Yeah, but that's funny because we were just randomly talking about the Gilroy Garlic Festival and all that fun stuff. But
celebrities at the festival.
I know, who knew? All right, so for this week we want to talk about celebrity encounters. They don't have to be actors. They can be. It could be musicians. It could be athletes. It could be just celebrity cooks. Things like that. Yeah. So just go through your what you can remember, people you've run into, and what was your experience like.
So I have a really short list. I haven't been alive for very long.
It's quality over quantity.
But I did grow up in in Woodstock, which is 2 hours north of New York City, and it was kind of an artist and filmmaker and actor destination, like a getaway destination for a lot of actors in the city. So like Brad and Jen, when they were married, had a house up there. A lot of celebrities have houses up there. So they're like sighted around there once in a while. So when I grew up, there was like a few token celebrities that lived in the town that we would see occasionally.
Okay.
One was Uma Thurman. She was like the big one.
Mm-hmm.
And
she's tall too.
She's very tall, and she has the most monstrous hands I've ever.
Really?
Like huge hands. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But she's very interesting because my fiance worked in a very elite exclusive grocery store in Woodstock that served like all these really organic produce and stuff, and he worked there, and she would come in regularly, but she would come in at the very, very end of the day. And when we started dating, I would also go at the very end of his shifts because then he would get off and we'd go hang out and stuff.
Sure.
But it would be so funny because it'd be like me, Akira, and like Uma Thurman and like her boyfriend, because she would come at the end of the day so that she wouldn't be like sighted and stuff.
Right.
But she would walk around, and I believe I saw her right after she had her like third baby or something.
Okay.
So she was like kind of relaxed. She had no makeup on. Her hair was in a bun.
Sure.
Like a big loose sweater. She wasn't even wearing sunglasses. Like just very relaxed and like, this is fine.
So this is after Ethan Hawke?
Yeah, this
Okay.
is post Ethan Hawke. She used to bring Ethan Hawke, apparently. I wasn't like old enough to understand. But she's dating some new guy now. And he would come in with her all the time. And one day, I wasn't here for this, but Akira tells the story. They were shopping around, and like they would always buy like thousands of dollars worth of stuff at the end of the day, like pretty much right at closing time.
Okay.
And it would be really inconvenient for the people working there.
Sure.
But like you can understand.
Yeah, they don't want to get...
Yeah, and he would walk around and be like, "What's this? What's this? Can I get this? Can you explain what this is?" And they were selling blocks of like raw tamarind root because that's the kind of stuff they would sell at this place. And you can use, shave it and like use it as a flavoring, tamarind flavoring. But he was like, "Can I just have it?" And my fiance's like, "I would definitely not just eat it. Like, it's used to add flavors to things. Use it very sparingly. That block should last you years." And he was like, "I'm just gonna eat it." So he ate like a big bite of tamarind and was immediately grossed out. Like he had to spit it out right there, and like, and Uma apparently was like, "What are you doing? Like, stop it! He told you not to eat it!" Like yelling at him. So that was the Uma Thurman. And bumping into her occasionally, she seemed just like very aloof and like very serious about not being a big deal. You know what I mean? So
are they still together?
I think they are, because this was only 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
Because we were seniors in college, I think. Or
is it the fat guy?
Yeah, the French guy, this guy.
Andre Balaz?
Yeah. So they live in New York City. He has multiple residences. But how long have they been together?
I don't know.
Since 2015.
Yeah,
Or maybe
okay,
it wasn't that guy then.
Oh.
Because this was a while ago. This was maybe 2013.
Aha.
I think he was like a model. He was also French.
Ah, okay.
I don't
This
remember.
guy's a CEO of something, so.
Yeah, he looked similar to that. They all looked the same.
I forgot she was married to Gary Oldman.
Oh, that would have been nice. I love him.
Well, best character actors. Yeah, that would have been awesome. Yeah.
Let's see, other ones. There was Robin Williams. He came into town. He stayed at the Emerson Resort and Spa, which is about 10 minutes from... No, it's less than that. 10 minutes from where I live, but about 2 minutes from my high school.
Okay.
So word was out that Robin Williams was staying at the Emerson, and like a bunch of us really wanted to go just like hang out there and see if we could catch him, because he was making a movie, a small indie film up north. So we did, and we kind of like camped out a little bit. And I know celebrities like hate that, but he was the nicest person in the entire world. Like so sweet and like excited. He kept cracking jokes and doing funny voices, and like it was great.
Yeah.
So rest in peace, Robin Williams.
Yeah, I wish you got to see him.
Yeah.
Like, you have a good memory of him.
Super good. He was just so positive and wonderful.
That's
and, like,
cool.
You always hope for that when there's a super beloved celebrity, but like. And especially after he passed away, everybody like always made them comment that he was like one of the nicest people. Just so warm and nice and loving and wonderful. Okay, then there was a third one.
Okay.
So I used to lifeguard at a local lake in the area. In the summer, it would get really busy. We get a lot of people up. And we got a call from a woman who was like, so my name is, and I forgot what her name was, but I work for Liv Tyler, and she is just really looking forward to maybe exploring the area and wanted to stop by your lake for a little bit. And we were like, what? Okay. So we all like put on our best.
So her assistant basically called.
Yeah. And it was like, just wanted you to like be aware and make sure the crowd is controlled, and like we don't want her to get too much attention. Like there's a side area where we can, keep her kind of safe, and we were like, oh yeah, don't worry. We're like nerdy hicks. Like we're not gonna
geek out over
try and bother her. Like we're very, reserved, and we'll just be nervous probably. Sure. So we were joking on our radios and calling to each other. You know what you should do? Just say Eagles landed when she gets here. Just call in and say the Eagles landed. So we're like on our walkie-talkies, and I'm on the chair, and I get a call. Office to chair. I'm like, what's up? The Eagles landed. Over and out. So I look back because from the chair you could see the cars come in, and there was this huge black SUV, super tinted windows, and it kind of pulled up and around, like where it said like no access, and it like pulled up and around, and this gorgeous like 6'1" in this hot pink bikini. Like if you're trying to not be noticed, like why would you wear a hot pink bikini?
Yeah, come on.
Pale, super, super pale, and in like a really big sun hat and big glasses. Like she looked super extra.
Sure.
It was hilarious. Like you make this big deal about how you want to be not a big deal, and then you show.
Well, she wore sunglasses, so that was
But yeah, she's very nice. She just laid out and sunned herself, and she also had extremely long fingers.
Really?
I don't know what's with these like tall female celebrities and their long fingers. Gorgeous raven hair. She was amazing looking, like stunning in person. I don't think people realize how stunning she is. Yeah, and then she didn't even go in the water. She like came down by the lake and put her toes in, and I don't think anybody even knew who it was. Because she had a big hat and big glasses on and just kind of looked like a mom at the beach.
I would assume that most people, like, unless you're really looking, you wouldn't expect to see a celebrity. So it's like, whatever, it's just another person.
Exactly. I don't think... And the glasses were pretty substantial.
No, it would have been fun. Now, if you saw Steven Tyler, you would know it was Steven Tyler.
Yes, exactly.
He's pretty...
I don't think he was around. But Liv was, and she just, like, dipped her toes in and moved like a little elf. And then she, like, went back up to her towel and laid and was away from everybody. So that was Liv.
Nice.
Good old eagle.
That's fun.
And then I have more. Should I keep talking?
Keep going. This is going to be a long series. I want to hear everything.
I guess really only 2 more.
Okay.
So,
whatever you have.
This one was a surprise, and I like those, because the other ones I kind of knew that celebrity was going to be there. But, so this one, I was in the supermarket where we grew up, Adams Fairacre Farms. It's like a cute little supermarket.
Okay.
Lots of organic produce and stuff. And my mom sends me on little errands when we're shopping together. Like, oh, go pick out some kale, go do this, go do that. I think we're getting kicked out.
Okay.
But
we're going to come back to this.
We'll be right back. Be right back, fam.
This is the first of different movie hours. All right, to the power of da-da-da-da. She's back. So where were we?
Okay, I was in the supermarket.
Yes.
And my mom had sent me on an errand to go get some kale. I was like, okay, kale, I can do that. So I was picking out some kale, and I noticed this gentleman next to me in a baseball cap and a really nice leather jacket and sunglasses on. I was like, why is that guy wearing sunglasses inside?
Right.
And I looked at him a little closely, and he looked at me, I think, thinking that I recognized him, but I was mostly just curious about his sunglasses.
Of course.
And
did you notice his hands?
I didn't notice his hands at all. But he was tall and like really built, and I was like, this is interesting that he's wearing his sunglasses inside. So I don't remember what I said. I tried to make some joke about like, man, it's really sunny in here, huh? Like a funny joke or something. And he laughed. I don't remember what I said exactly. And then he was like, yeah. And I noticed he had a British accent. And then I looked closer, and it was fucking Daniel Craig.
Whoa.
It was James fucking Bond.
It was.
He likes kale.
Of course. Who doesn't?
And I was like, I noticed, and I think he noticed on my face that I recognized who it was.
Sure.
And my face like froze. And I was like, this is nice kale or something dorky.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, and super nice British accent.
Yeah.
And then I think that the store and the management, like, all knew that he was there. And, like, there's a vibe that just comes across, like, a place when a celebrity is there.
Sure.
Like, everybody was like, who is that? And then you can see everybody kind of buzzing. And I got the sense that he got the sense that now everybody knew he was there.
Time to go, yeah.
So he just moved through the store like lightning, like, picked up a few things and was out the door in, like, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And that was Daniel Craig.
But
he was stunning. Like, huge guy.
Right.
Like, really built.
Uh-huh.
And nice leather jacket.
Nice. Well, see, a nice
and a
leather
baseball
jacket.
cap. Weird pairing, but...
See, that's the thing. I mean, like, these are all, like, awesome stories, but just, these are routine things that
people
you and
do.
I do, and nobody cares, but for them, it's a big deal. Like,
and I was always just surprised that these celebrities would, like Daniel Craig, Uma Thurman, go grocery shopping on their own.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But there's some things that just, you want to be a normal person, I guess.
Exactly,
yeah.
and I think in our area, they really do feel that way.
Sure.
Because it's such a small community, and, like, we don't ask questions or bug them. We don't go stand outside their house.
Right.
There's no paparazzi in Woodstock, New York.
Right.
Like, people are generally very respectful. They just get really excited.
Sure.
So, and, like, nervous.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a nice place for celebrities to be, and they feel comfortable being able to leave their homes and go out to the grocery store because they know all that's going to happen is some like nerdy girl is going to make fun of their glasses.
And they can handle that.
And they can handle it, and they don't even think anything of it.
Sure.
They can feel like a normal person.
Well, that was like John Lennon had always said they loved New York because like nobody cared that he was John Lennon in New York. Unfortunately, that was also his demise in New York. But still, like he loved being in New York because
there's a lot of celebs in New York now that make a big deal out of being in New York, and then the paparazzi come and like bother them.
Sure.
But it's a lot less bad than it is in LA, I guess.
Yeah, I would say.
Because there's a lot of stargazing in LA. Like people go to LA to see
the map
if they
of the
can,
stars.
Yeah. But not in Woodstock, New York.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, I mean, they want to go to a quiet place. And,
and it is. It's really peaceful.
Yeah.
And nice. So
I bet you could see a lot of celebs up in Napa Valley. You know, say I want to go wine tasting or Moran or something.
I've been there a lot, and I've never seen anybody.
Yeah.
I can imagine it would be a popular thing for them. But yeah, I guess the last story I'm supposed to tell, right, is...
Well, there's two. So we can do... You want to do yesterday. You ran into...
Oh, yeah. So at the Garlic Festival
uh-huh.
yesterday, it said on the program that there would be like a demonstration with Giada De Laurentiis.
Yeah.
And we were like, we like Giada. We like her turkey meatballs. Let's go. So we did. We went not thinking we would actually see her. Just like, whatever.
Yeah.
And we kind of... The venue where she was going to be was really small and intimate, and we were like, let's just try and go see this cook-off that she's supposed to be hosting. So we got there at the end of the cook-off, like when she was supposed to be pronouncing the winners, and we walked out and we found a seat literally 10 feet in front of her.
Nice.
And the whole time she's like interacting with the audience, interacting with us, and like bringing up little girls, answering questions, and it was just really cool.
Yeah.
Because... It wasn't like a personal celebrity experience where like I saw her and like it was a big deal, but like she was there with a crowd of like maybe 100, 200 people.
So it's relatively intimate.
And it was really easy to just get and find a seat. And she's actually cooking. She's handing out food, like made burrata bruschetta that were delicious, like, and answering questions and engaging with the audience.
Yeah.
And, I mean, she was a little nasty.
Oh, really?
A couple times. Yeah, but not to the audience.
Okay.
There were people who were supposed to be, I guess, her sous chefs, like, providing the food. And one of the helpers came out with, like, a big bowl of pasta that was already made. And she was like, what is this? And they were like, this is the pasta for you to cook with the bolognese. And she was like, oh, no, this has just been sitting out all day? Like, shit. I can't serve this. Is this edible? Like, we heard her, like, on the mic say these things. I don't think she gave a shit that anybody could hear her. Because it's true. Like, she's not going to serve the audience.
And everyone's
like,
going
food
to, she made me
been
sick.
Sitting out all day. So she was like, I'll just make fresh pasta. So she did. She boiled the water. And she turned it into a lesson about how you need to add 3 cups of salt or whatever. And she was fun. She was engaging. She's clearly...
Maybe that was a setup. Maybe. Yeah.
She's clearly really good at being a celebrity.
Sure.
Like... really charismatic. So Yeah, that was a fun one. And unexpected.
Sure.
Like, I thought it would be this stadium of people,
Yeah.
and, like, she'd be on stage for, like, 10 minutes. She was there for hours.
Wow.
And it was all for charity. Like,
that's cool.
She clearly wasn't paid anything.
Mhm.
She just did it because she likes cooking.
Yeah.
And there was a really meaningful exchange there where somebody asked, like, what's your favorite part of being a chef? And she was, like, sharing my Italian culture. Like, I really love that people are interested in Italian food in more than just like a pizza and pasta way, and I can use it as a teaching moment to explain to them the food and the history and the culture and how important it is. And I was like, wow, that's a very nice way to say that.
Yeah.
Not like, it's really nice to, not have to worry about, making people happy. I work for myself. I feel like that's something people say.
Yeah, because that's a canned answer.
Yeah. But it was very thoughtful. It was nice.
Yeah.
And she was wonderful.
Cool.
A little nasty, but wonderful.
That's okay. That's nasty in a, quote unquote, that's...
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to...
Yeah, the one you like the best.
Yeah, I love this story. And so this, when I saw that Mahlon was wanted this... this topic, I was like, well, Enrica's going to have to tell me about her uncle. So we got to hear about this.
Cool. So my family was an Italian-American family from New York. Growing up, my mother was around a lot of these, machismo Italian-American guys. And her uncle, so my great-uncle, was a really good friends with Jake LaMotta, the boxer. And wrote a screenplay about his life, essentially. And he was also a filmmaker. His name was Frank Petrella. And he was really close with Jake LaMotta, and Jake LaMotta, would come to, like, our family reunions in the Catskills and stuff, and close with the men in the family.
Sure.
So my Uncle Frank wrote all of these, stories about Jake, and that story eventually became Raging Bull.
Yeah. Famous movie directed by Martin Scorsese.
Yes, and if you watch Raging Bull, you'll see one of the screenwriter is Peter Savage, who is my uncle. Frank Petrella used the stage name Peter Savage.
Did you ever find out why he chose that?
Well, we always called him Pete, like Uncle Pete.
Okay.
And I think there was like a little bit of a desire to hide his identity because he was such a skis. Like, he had a second family. Like, he was that whole kind of,
Okay.
he didn't want to be famous, I think, for many reasons.
and this isn't uncommon. Like, a lot of people do change their names when they're writing.
Yeah.
When they're a writer,
Whether it be, his gambling addiction or his multiple women or whatever. I think he wanted to keep his Petrella name, which is my family name. My mother's maiden name, very, pure to the outside.
That's fair. Yeah.
I mean, we found out later at his funeral that he had his other family. But, yeah, Uncle Pete he died very young. And his daughter Paula now fought for the rights to Raging Bull and won in a very big Supreme Court battle to have the rights for an original screenplay be passed down to the heir, not be property of MGM in this case.
Right.
Which was really cool. It was a monumental kind of ruling for the little guy, the screenwriter. And now she's writing a story of my Uncle Pete's life. So the story behind Raging Bull and how he wrote it and stuff like that. And when the film was being made, De Niro was around a lot, apparently. I was too young, but he was, shadowing Jake and learning a lot about Jake and trying to be there. And Jake was always with my Uncle Pete, so they were, De Niro was around a lot and apparently loved my family and stuff. He probably doesn't remember. He was young. But, so there's like a specific love in my family for De Niro because apparently as a person, he is also really, really nice. Like a good soul, good man. Really soft-spoken and gentle and like very much the opposite of like what he plays.
Well, that's the thing. It's just
kind
a role.
Of rough and tumble. Yeah. Like apparently he's really relaxed and like slow going.
Yeah.
So that's my family's connection to Raging Bull. And whenever I tell anybody about it, they're like, "Whoa, that's amazing!"
It is. Because Raging Bull is an iconic movie.
It's really iconic. Yeah. I didn't because growing up, I was like, "When is this movie I'm not allowed to watch?"
Yeah.
Like we had so many copies of it, and we had the book, and I'm like, "Why is this picture of this naked guy boxing?" I mean, I didn't know the significance. And then as I get older and I hear how kind of it's this big film.
It is. It still is.
And still is kind of this one of De Niro's biggest.
And Scorsese. Yeah.
And Scorsese's biggest.
And it's one of the first movies I remember seeing Joe Pesci in, too.
Oh, yeah. And it had all the Italian-American guys from the neighborhood, kind of like their early work.
Yes.
Which I think was cool.
So did you ever find out, like, De Niro had to gain a lot of weight? Like,
he did, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. I don't really know the circumstances of that, but I know that Jake was huge.
When you knew him?
Yeah, when my all the family pictures and stuff that he's in, he's huge. And apparently he was always, fighting.
Right.
Always, like, sparring with the other men in my family. Like, they thought they got a big hoot out of it.
Oh, I'm sure.
And when De Niro was around, he would spar with them as well. So I think he was just always working out. I think he just got really... He followed... I think shadowed Jake a lot. And followed Jake's, like, workout plan. But De Niro's not a very tall guy. He's a little guy.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. He's only, like, 5'9" or 5'8".
Yeah. Because that's method
acting. And Jake
acting.
was, like, 6'3".
Oh, really?
I
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's method acting at its finest because, I mean, he literally, like, binged.
He really did. I mean, that's at least the story.
Yeah.
Is that he was around a lot and really invested in, like, LaMotta's life and stuff.
Because now they would do all sorts of CGI and, he would have to do that to his body and things like that. But, yeah, that's crazy. It's a great, great story. So.
Never mind. LaMotta wasn't tall. He was just really muscular and, like, big.
It's
and next to the men in my family, he was tall because all the guys are tiny.
But that's the thing. You want to be a boxer, you probably don't want to be super tall. You probably want to be short and,
You would think. Yeah. But, yeah, I think in the pictures of Jake that are famous, like, he was lean and mean.
Of course.
But in all of my, like, I guess when he's next to, like, a real dude, like, just a normal guy, he looks, like, huge, burly. So that was crazy.
So if you haven't seen Raging Bull, definitely
see it. Yes. Check out the credits for Peter Savage, and it's my uncle.
It's the antithesis of Rocky. It's much darker. It's all in black and white.
It's super dark. It's black and white. It's like sketchy and
really gritty and great boxing scenes though.
Good boxing. Yeah.
So
cool.
All right, thank you so much, Enrica.
No problem.
Just kidding, we're not done yet.
Hi, sorry.
Part 2 of this interview is supposed to be who do people who think you look like celebrity-wise?
I have gotten a few things.
Okay.
The first one I ever got was I was working as an ice cream clerk, and somebody goes, "You look just like Piper Perabo." I was like, I don't even know who that is. Apparently she was in Coyote Ugly.
She was, yes.
And I wasn't allowed to watch Coyote Ugly. So. Apparently I look like Piper Perabo, but I was also like 30 pounds lighter then, so who knows. And then the second one that I get pretty regularly is Olivia Thirlby.
Okay.
She played like the friend in Juno.
Yes, yeah.
And has done a couple of other roles, but she's just like a brunette with a long face, like me. And that's it. I don't get a lot of, like, you look like me.
This. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I guess I'm just not remarkable.
No, you look like Enrica, and that's all that matters.
Right. Exactly.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
If you enjoyed this podcast and are an iTunes user, please do the show a favor and head on over to the official iTunes page for Damn Good Movie Memories. Be sure to leave a rating and a review. This will allow the show to appear higher in the algorithm and spread the joy of this podcast to the masses. If you are not an iTunes user, you can still listen and subscribe on Podbean at damngoodmoviememories.podbean.com. Be sure to like us on Facebook under our Damn Good Movie Memories page. You can also listen to a limited number of episodes on YouTube. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and be sure to tune in next week for an all-new episode of Damn Good Movie Memories.